Hey, welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast and our new weekly series featuring Dr. Mekia Troy, Certified Master Athletic Administrator and the Athletic Director at Creekside High School in Georgia. We'll be right back with Dr. Troy's segment, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, the Global Community of Women in High School Sports, We Coach, and the Florida Coaches Coalition. You've heard me say many times, these are four great organizations. You should really add them to your network. And now, do me a favor, don't hit that fast forward button. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors a shout out. These are all companies that I used as an AD or as a coach. You should be using them too. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Go to Gipper.com, start creating world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, mention this podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. You know, they have a mission to help you bring your school's legacy to life. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check out their great products. When you're ready to order, mention this podcast, you'll get a nice discount. vitalsignswalloffame.com. Showcase your school's history, your proudest moments, and your top role models. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school, and our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that help them coach our kids up to their highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users. Find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their tables and their boards in action. Sideline Interactive's products not only generate income for your department, they also help create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. That's sidelineinteractive.com. Go to hometownticketing.com, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Hometown is digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, more customization. Hometown is here to make the best solution for you. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. That's the website, snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. You've got Snap Store, Snap Connect, Snap Manage, and of course, you have Snap Raise, the fundraising platform. Go to snapraise.com to find out more information about all of them. That's snapraise.com. We want to say thanks to Home Campus, your one-stop shop for school athletics. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day. For the podcast, it's the exclusive high school and state association management platform. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, student-athlete clearance and eligibility, and a whole lot more. Go to homecampus.com to see all the ways that they can help you. That's homecampus.com. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that allows you to take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. AD's already hear from the complainers, the 2% that want to gripe about everything. Athletic Surveys connects you with the 2%, but they also connect you with the 98% that supports your program. That's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent, your principal, or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast and our new series. This is episode 3, featuring a friend of the show, Dr. Mekia Troy. She is a certified Master Athletic Administrator, also the Director of Athletics at Creekside High School in Georgia, also a member of the NIAAA faculty. Every Thursday, She shares her perspective, her thoughts, her views, her wisdom with our listeners on this series. So, Dr. Troy, always great to see you, but what do you have for our listeners this week?
Great to see you as well. Thank you so much. Well, this week, I want to talk a little bit about relationships. Being promoted from within an organization has its advantages and disadvantages, and that was my story. I was promoted to an athletic director's position from the school that I was already teaching and coaching in. And on one end, you already know the lay of the land, you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. But on the other side, you're now moving into a leadership position with people that you were just in the trenches with just before. So that makes things a little bit challenging when you are promoted from within. So relationships are really important. Unfortunately, in the beginning, I didn't understand how important that they were. I spent a lot of time making sure I knew the rules so that I could call folks out for not following the rules. It's basically what it was. I was blinded by thinking that I was doing the right thing in trying to hold people accountable for following the rules and the guidelines and things of that nature. But in doing so, I couldn't see that I was building more barriers than I was actually building relationships with the people that I needed to work with, my team of people. When you walk down the hall and you see coaches laughing and chatting together, and when you arise, they stop. There's no more conversation. Then you kind of know that maybe some things need to change. And for me, the straw that broke the camel's back was going into a practice one day, and a student athlete told me that when I come in, it feels like cut day on HBO Hard Knocks, and I'm about to be the one delivering the bad news. And I thought, oh my goodness, it was eye-opening. Something's got to change and change quickly. So I did that. I was trying so hard to be efficient that it was clear that I wasn't being effective in getting the best out of the people that I worked with. And we're in the people business in the educational athletics. We often say we're working with the whole child. Well, it's the same dealing with adults. Our coaches, they wear many hats, and being a coach is just one of them. So we need to be considerate of those things and try to learn those things as we're building relationships, because you may find out a lot more about someone's, as they say, pre-existing makeup by building that relationship and finding out who they really are, and then why they approach situations the way that they do. NBA coach Monty Williams has this quote where he said that he's not calling his players out, he's calling them up. And I really like that, because you are calling them up to a standard that you believe that they're capable of reaching, instead of just calling them out. And I believe it's the same as we're dealing with our coaches and our student athletes, that we should be calling them up to a standard and not always just pointing the finger and calling them out. So I've taken the approach now, as I've had a few more years under my belt, to think the way that I would even as an athlete. Back in my point guard days, it was important to remember how to read defenses and see when it was time to be aggressive and attack a situation, or when it was time to just pull back, slow the pace of what's going on, and really just see what's happening around you. And when addressing my coaches, I use the same strategy now. Sometimes the conversation is it's time to address a situation. And sometimes if I can sense that maybe this has been a tough day, maybe there's a lot on this coach's plate, there's no reason for me to pile on right now. There are a lot of times that, especially if you have a teacher who's also a coach, the athletic piece might not be the priority right then if they're having an issue in their classroom. So you have to be mindful of how you're addressing these folks and their situations when you're building relationships with people, to find out more about them, to find out how to get the best from them. There are times when I might approach a coach with an idea of something that I want to address, but as they start to talk and I listen, I decide, you know what, now is not the right time for me to address this particular situation. This one can wait. There are things that are urgent, and that's understandable, but there are times when you can just hold a conversation or hold how you address that conversation until some other time, instead of just adding on to so many other responsibilities that we all have with our different roles that we serve, not only in school, but outside of school with our families. So that's been my goal, to try to build relationships with the coaches If I come to the situation, sometimes we just need to talk, chat. Maybe it's totally unrelated to athletics, but it allows me to see how the person thinks, how they work in different situations, and I have a better understanding of them. And it makes a difference. So now I know when I send this email and I don't get an immediate response from this person, it doesn't mean that they've ignored my email. It might mean that this is the day where they have 5 different courses that they have to teach. And the lesson planning has been tough and they'll get to it the next morning. And I'm fine with that. But then I have an understanding because of relationships. There may be coaches that I know I can send a quick text message exchange with and get a response. And then there's others, I might have to go and find you and walk down the hall and have a face-to-face conversation. But either way, that comes from building relationships with the coaches and understanding them and what works best. Because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we are building these relationships and not building barriers that is going to make it difficult for us to have the most successful athletic program possible.
Boy, as I was listening to you share your story, I was just having flashbacks, to my own experience. Very, very similar. We were going to be the best. We were going to do it this way, and it was just one of those lessons that you had to learn. In my case, the hard way. I think it worked out well, but again, it goes back to what you and I talked off air. You don't know what you don't know. And whether you figure it out on your own or you've got a mentor that can kind of help you along the way, a great, great lesson. And it is tough to, as I call it, go to the other side of the desk because, one day you're a coach and you're hanging out, and then the next day, you're no longer one of them. You're the people in the ivory tower. You're an administrator now. So, finding ways to keep that connection there. Just so important. Great stuff. Thanks for sharing. Mm-hmm. Mekia, once again, it's always great to spend time with you. Appreciate you sharing with our listeners. One of them wanted to reach out and maybe connect with you. What's the best way that they can do that?
Hey, just trying to keep it simple. We're going to be Dr. Troyme, DrTroyme on social media. And same with email, drtroyme@gmail. Happy to be a resource in any way that I can.
Yeah, and those of you on, again, you mentioned this. I don't know if it's Twitter or if it's X. I haven't heard anybody call it X. Dr. Troy is very active on that particular platform. So, check out some of her posts and follow her. She'd be a great resource to have. Doc, thanks again for being with us. All the best moving forward. And, we'll, hope to have another great lesson from you next week on this segment.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
For listeners, we do this every single Thursday, and we also upload the Zoom recordings to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate you listening. Come back next time for another great tip and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Wow, another great episode, if I do say so myself. Before we go, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. You really need to reach out to these folks because they are all great companies that I used as an athletic director or as a coach. Gipper. I came to social media late in my career. Gipper is hands down the best platform out there for helping to promote your student athletes, your teams, and your coaches. Go to Gipper.com, mention this podcast. They'll give you a nice discount. Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a cool way to display your record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, or just tell more compelling stories about your school, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. And again, mention this podcast. They'll give you a nice little discount. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive indoor score tables and video boards. You've heard me say before, one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their products in action. We want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com to get started. If you're looking for a fundraising platform, there's a lot of them out there. They're all good. SnapRaise is the best. Our coaches used it and just loved it. Our parents loved it. I loved it as an AD. Our business manager loved it. And it works. Go to snapraise.com. They've got a lot of other platforms like Snap Connect, Snap Store. Check it all out at snapraise.com. We want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com. As an AD, make sure your school's a Huddle school. It's not just football anymore. The other teams, your coaches, will love what Huddle can do for them. We also want to thank Home Campus. Go to homecampus.com for more information. As an AD, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just fantastic. Go to homecampus.com to get started. And last but not least, athletic surveys by Lifetrack. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're truly missing out. Go to athleticsurveys.com to get started. Thanks again for tuning in to this episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.